Groomer, and I am here to bling in the new year with a new hashtag created by the lovely Elizabeth at The More Intuitive Me. Bling your decks. How fun. And I think Elizabeth herself brings the bling to this community by virtue of her sparkle and shine alone. She's a real gem in the community, and I'm grateful for her. So what fun to dive into this hashtag myself. I admittedly don't wear much jewelry these days. I have a lot that I've accrued over the years, but I wear very little now. Any given day, I'm really just wearing like a little pair of stud earrings and this plain band in lieu of my original wedding ring. This is one that I got for an anniversary because, frankly, it's what I wanted in the first place. This is practical. But anyway, I'm blinging it up today though, wearing a fun cocktail ring that I had bought in my 20s, probably circa Y2K, just rhinestones, of course. And then this is my wedding band and engagement ring, which I do not wear very frequently anymore. And this little item here is very funny to me. This is costume jewelry dating back to 1993 when I stood up as a bridesmaid in one of my brother's weddings. My second time as a bridesmaid in my high school career. And we had to wear these bracelets with a pair of white satin gloves. And let me tell you, those do not go together very well. I just remember this thing constantly snagging in my gloves and it was really annoying, but apparently I kept it. I'm not sure why. I probably did just figure I would wear it for a Halloween costume or something someday, but it's just in like a hidden corner of my jewelry box these days. So yeah, anyway, I'm putting on the Ritz for you today, folks. So let's just dive right into this following Elizabeth's prompts. The first one being pearls. Well, as you can see before you, I have an assortment of faux pearls that I have definitely worn a lot over the years. Again, not so much lately, but really the pearl was my staple. And I'm not going to make a mess and pull all of these off, but I just had all sorts of different like lengths, and some were like a grouping of multiple strands or just a single strand, or like those little like floating ones on the clear wire. I remember wearing that a lot. So anyways, I've just kind of collected them all here because yeah, the pearls are classic. As far as the real ones in my collection, the first one that I came into possessing, I have these like random little sentimental charms that I've just put together here just for safekeeping. They've got their own memories, but anyway, the one I want to focus on is this pearl that was mounted terribly to this. It didn't quite connect, and I've always wanted to get that fixed somehow. But okay, the story behind this. I had this since I was a kid. I don't remember how old I was, but I was just in grade school, maybe middle school at the oldest. It was vacation going down to Florida with my family. And one of our traditions was to stop at the Shell Factory, which I don't think exists anymore, but it was this massive place that had all sorts of kitschy items made of seashells. I remember shark fetuses in jars, all sorts of aquatic life and all varieties you could find there. But there was this thing where I think for $8, you could choose an oyster and they would cut it open and you could find out whether there was a pearl inside or not. Very rarely was there one, so you were making a gamble. So anyways, we just thought like, all right, full for $8. I mean, I don't know what that would be today adjusted for inflation. This was the 80s, so maybe I should make light of it being so cheap. But my dad was willing to cough it up, so we paid for this oyster. They opened it up and there is a pearl. So they drilled this setting into it, and I did wear it on a silver chain around my neck for quite some time. And I think now if I could get this safely removed, I think it would be lovely to have mounted onto a ring. It's one of those things down the road, maybe it'll happen, but if not, it's a wonderful memory, and it's just such a beautiful, lovely pearl. And I felt so lucky that day. It was like winning the lottery to have the oyster with the pearl inside. So that's my favorite. But in addition to that, also very meaningful to me are these pearl earrings, which my husband gave me when we were engaged, and I wore them on our wedding day. And speaking of pearl necklaces, the one time I did wear a real pearl necklace was on our wedding day. I wore a string of my grandmother's pearls, which were the same pearls that my mom wore when she married my dad, and the same pearls that my grandma wore when marrying my grandpa. So that was so meaningful. My mom has them, obviously, and I'm quite frankly hoping to call dibs on them. So in any case, pearls, very, very meaningful in my history. And so the prompt then, as far as blinging up the decks goes, is to choose a deck that helps you soften by connecting with the element of water and tapping into your intuition. The most on-the-nose one I could think of was this Ocean Dreams Oracle, because ocean, duh. Obviously, a very watery deck. Oh, sorry. Okay. A very watery deck. It is very intuitive. I have very special readings with this deck. It definitely feels connected, not just with the water element, but to higher power. So I reserve this for spiritual readings when I'm really seeking that spiritual guidance. And it is just so soft and lovely. And I think encompasses that charm of the pearl. The next prompt is the choker. Okay, so I don't really have one. I never really hopped on board the 90s trend with that, at least as far as like the really tight chokers went that were like up your neck a bit, kind of strangling. I do have one that I wear at Halloween sometimes, depending on the costume, but that is packed away. And I didn't feel like going digging for it, but it's pretty. I like it. It's got a skeleton cameo on it, and that's just my jam. But if this counts, I do have this rhinestone necklace, which is quite a short strand. It sits right at the base of my neck. So that's about as close to a choker as I would be willing to get. Otherwise, I really would feel like I was choking, and I'm not here for that. So I bought this several years ago. It's vintage. Have not worn this in so long. I would really love another opportunity to someday. So we will see. Now that I'm remembering, I have it. But in any case, for this prompt, choose a deck that helps you claim your voice and honor your truth. And I love that given the choker's position at your throat. So for this prompt, I have chosen my very own Fool for Tarot deck. For assorted reasons. First of all, this is my Valentine to Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I wanted to follow his fool's journey through the tarot. And anyone who has watched Buffy and knows the character of Spike knows that he is going to speak his truth. He tells it like he sees it, and he's not worrying about hurting anyone's feelings in the process. This is also my blingier version of this deck, by the way. This is the Effulgent edition that is also available at Make Playing Cards, and it comes in this tin, whereas the original ones just come shrink wrapped to keep the price down as low as I can. I wanted to offer that, but if anyone wanted to like just kind of, spring for the little bells and whistles, this is available. So anyways, shiny. Okay, so anyways, back to Spike. He was like a poet in his human life. So he really used his voice. So for me, this is my love letter to him. This is my expression. This is a character whose arc I just love so much. I just think it was the most fascinating, or one of the most fascinating character arcs anyway, that I've seen on television. And I just really adore him as a character. And this was me giving myself voice, to that love and appreciation for all the facets of his personality and the steps along his growth arc. So also, because he was a poet, I wrote poetry for each card. There's a sonnet for the major arcana, there's haiku for these pip cards, and then the court cards have limericks, and that's in lieu of a guidebook. I'll leave a link to that. You all can access that guidebook of sorts. It also includes some spike themed spreads in there. Whether you have the deck or not, you are welcome to that. But anyway, while I was writing from Spike's point of view, obviously it's supposed to be from his or William's voice. Ultimately, it is my voice. It's me giving voice to him. So for that reason, this is my choker deck. Really authentic expression of my truth and voice. Number 3 is the tiara or headpiece. So I don't own a tiara unless, once again, I were to go dig through my Halloween archives. There's probably something in there. I'm pretty sure I had a zombie queen tiara at one point. That is probably there somewhere, but you know what? It's not very blingy. It's actually kind of gross. So anyways, yeah, where my headwear goes, you know, it's either going to be my baseball hat or a page boy cap. So anyways, in lieu of that, I can at least offer you the deck that follows this prompt. Choose a deck that helps you step into your queen energy and lead with power and grace. That is so lovely because we're talking crown chakra with this headpiece. And for that, I have chosen the Lioness Oracle Tarot. There is something so cosmic, for obvious reasons, about this deck, being that it does often depict the cosmos. There is a fiery energy to it too, though, and somehow it just gives me a real Queen of Wands energy, and I feel that sense of sovereignty and drive and power through that. And I have done some very soulful readings with this as well, so I do think that it connects with crown chakra very well, and it just, just cuteness in it too. But I do just feel like it's so powerful. So yes, this is where I find some real queen energy. Next is the cuff bracelet. So I almost forgot that I had these until I found them at the bottom of my jewelry box. But I used to wear these cuffs quite a bit. In my 30s, I would say. Yeah. I mean, what a difference, right? Where I'm like wearing hardly anything now, but then I used to wear these. And I think I would wear it even pretty casually sometimes too. I just thought they were very, very fun. Speaking of the kitties and that fiery energy of that Lioness Oracle Tarot. But yeah, very fun. These are great. I gotta come up with an excuse to wear these again. But meanwhile, the prompt for the cuff bracelet is choose a deck that helps you feel protected and helps you stand in your power. But I'm thinking of like the cuff bracelet and Wonder Woman energy with that, you know, there's a modern day superhero like Buffy the Vampire Slayer that really exhibits that sense of strength and protection, and just the show itself is such a safe space. It's such a comfort zone that I and so many others will retreat into when we need to just find that solace, you know, have a little break from the everyday, perhaps lick our wounds, look to characters that we can relate to and feel inspired by how they overcome adversity in their lives, which involve extraordinary challenges, but also some pretty relatable day-to-day challenges too. And that's part of the power of the show in itself. So I can't think of a better like icon for standing in one's power as Buffy Willow, and all the Scoobies, really. They all find their way through this journey, just strength building on strength, and they find it so much through their vulnerability. So I feel like that's a big part of what makes this deck and show just so comforting, because it acknowledges those moments when you're feeling frail and weak, but how you can still find strength through that. And by the way, this is a trimmed copy. I took the borders off, and this is just the one that I throw into my bag and tote around any given day. Prompt number 5 is the anklet, which I don't have. I used to wear one that was similar to this chain that I pulled out before. It was just like a thin gold. I think it was like my mom's or my sister's, and I just took it and started wearing it at some point. Otherwise, I feel like as a kid, I might have worn one with like little seashells on it. Also, for sure, I remember wearing friendship bracelet. I made those like a fiend. But anyway, I don't have anything to show for this other than the deck that fits the category. So for the anklet, Elizabeth wants us to choose a deck that makes you feel free, one that invites you to move your body and celebrate your sensuality, which I guess an anklet kind of invites you to do. There is something different about wearing one. It feels like very much stepping into your body and expressing yourself in a less conventional way. You don't see people wearing them very often. So I don't know, maybe this will seem silly, but okay, let me just show it. For this one, I have gone with the Lightseer's Tarot. Because of this, like, I'm thinking of sensuality, not in terms of sexuality here. I don't get that from this deck at all, but, you know, sensuality in the sense of satisfaction gained through the senses, you know, just sort of that abundance of, tactile energies and physical pleasures and so forth, as well as the spiritual that comes through in this deck too. But I do feel like there is a real engagement with creature comforts in this deck. And like this, just the carefreeness of it. I mean, yes, you have cards like this that are difficult too, but this is the stuff that makes me overall want to feel like I want to get up and dance, because I never have been like that. You know, I've always been like fairly reserved, and there's a movement in some of the artist's strokes here that just makes the whole deck feel like it's moving and swirling, and there's music and just some real celebration of life happening in it, even again when things are tough. But otherwise, so much that is light and bright, and it feels very carefree. These are all figures that just seem like they want to go out and dance and enjoy life. So, yeah, that's my choice for the anklet. And the people in this deck seem like the kind who would wear an anklet. I didn't look at the pictures closely enough, but some might even be wearing one. Wouldn't that be something? Number 6 is the charm bracelet. So, only charm bracelet that I have these days. Again, kind of forgot that I had this. This was from Origami Owl over a decade ago. I got this to wear to my first book launch and to author signings and such. And so I had picked charms to represent my first published book, which was 7 for a Secret, and very integral to the climax and resolution of that book is a key that is found to open a door that leads to a lot of answers. So I had this charm on there to represent that. And then these are charms in a charm. This opens up like a locket. I've got a little mini cameo in there because, as you may have seen, a lot of my social media, that's what I use as a profile photo or the little icon. And that is actually a close-up photo of this cameo. This was actually a replacement for an identical one that I wore all through my 20s on the lapel of my overcoat. And that one sadly had fallen off, but I found another one. It's just like a very special piece to me. It makes me think of my 20s, and I'm very into vintage things. And when I found myself writing about historical story threads, it just seemed to fit the vibe of that. So I ended up running with it as my author branding. So I've got that little mini cameo in there. And then there's a little bird hidden behind them. There's a little like gear, like something that you would find in a watch or a clock. Well, my tagline is fiction with a penchant for the past and paranormal. In my bio, it says dimensions of time, love, and the soul. So the watch gear in here represented time. There wasn't room really for another charm, so I just straight up said love. And then the bird represents the soul in that case. So yeah, this was something tucked away, and I really never wore it again after all that debut excitement, but I was glad to stumble on that again. I would say more recently, the types of charms I wear, I was in a real Alex and Ani phase several years ago, and I just accumulated a bunch of these. So there's only one charm per bracelet, but the idea is that you wear a bunch of them together. I would never wear all of these together. Kind of fun though to do like a big chunk and mix up the colors of the metals and such. But yeah, all charms on the back, they've got what they symbolize. And I mean, I guess just to show a few, if it's even visible, I think this one was actually tarot related. This was the moon. And then there's the water element on the back there. I don't know, a star of Venus, a lotus flower, got a little bee here, angel of inspiration. Oh, there's my Jack Skellington. Let's see, on the gold side, got my Cancer sign, mermaid, an oyster for my watery nature, sun and moon, phoenix, another key. And so it's one of those things, like I could just like pick it for whatever vibe I'm feeling. It's almost like carrying crystal tumblestones around with you. If you're just kind of wanting to have a certain energy on a given day, that's how I would mix and match these primarily. I love hearing the jingle of them, so definitely great to group them together. I will still wear these now and then. Like I said, I just generally don't feel pulled to hang stuff off my body very often anymore. But anyways, for the charm bracelet category, choose a deck that helps you tell your story, one that feels personal, expressive, and rich with symbols that reflect your journey. Okay, so I couldn't think of a tarot deck. So I am copying Elizabeth and going with my charm casting collection, just based on all the charms that I have accumulated. There are many that have personal meaning to me, of course. All of these are symbols that hold archetypal energies for us collectively, but then there are some that can just mean something very particular to me. For example, like I've got a typewriter for my writing, but then a laptop for my editing. I've got a cardinal for my dad and a chicken for my mom, and those are all for very personal reasons. And yeah, so this becomes like a nice collection. It taps into my own intuition based on my own lived experience. So there you go, my charm casting collection as my charm bracelets. And doesn't it all just make a wonderful ASMR sound? And speaking of that sound, we have the Cha-Cha bracelet, which, does this count? I never knew what a Cha-Cha bracelet was, but I think this counts. I got this several years ago at the London Fashion Show. It's vintage and really never wore it, but it's an awful lot of fun, and I love admiring it, even when it is just sitting at my bedside there. But yes, the Cha-Cha bracelet that is meant to move and shake and have a sense of joy, make you want to dance a bit. So for this, choose a deck that lifts your mood, one that brings brightness, playfulness, or sense of celebration when you need it most. Wow, this won't be a surprise to some folks, I am sure, because whenever I'm talking about a mood-lifting deck, Way of the Panda, because pandas are my favorite animal, have been ever since I was a child. So this is straight up inner child joy. This deck is so cute. These pandas are hilarious. It still gives you the tough messages that you need to hear, but really softens the blow nicely because everything is so bright and adorable and fun. Pandas are just silly, and I am silly, which is why I really resonate with them. I love this deck. I pulled this one out for self-care. And yeah, just pure happiness and play. That is my cha-cha bracelet. And again, haven't been looking at the pictures closely enough, but I would love it. The pandas are wearing accessories in here, so I would love it if there's one wearing a cha-cha bracelet in there. I'll have to look. If they're not, they should be. So number 8, prayer beads. Oh boy, I don't know why I went so balls out on this one. Basically grabbed almost all the ones I own. To start, got my mala beads. This was my first set of them. I believe it's African turquoise. And I got this quite a while ago when I was first getting into crystals and meditation and learning how to use a mantra and repeating it along each bead. And I love that process. I feel like it's been a while since I have done it though, and I should really try to get back to that. But I keep these beads in a box on my altar space. I also, inside this little like ritual bag of mine, it's like anything that I would need on the go for my practice. I have another set. I think these are made of ebony, so they're very lightweight. It can also be twisted around to be worn as a bracelet, but that's just a nice thing to kind of throw in this bag. And speaking of bracelet, I had bought another one for that purpose of if I were to travel. I mean, this is Tiger's Eye, and you know, aside from just being a lovely fashion accessory, it is a great way of having prayer beads on the go. So those are all of my mala beads. What I do pray on most frequently these days is the rosary. So I have several of these. This is a rose quartz one that I keep with my original mala beads at my altar. I have this ebony version that I use day to day. I just keep it in a room of the house where I tend to sit and read and journal and reflect. And so it makes sense for me in there. I have this one that I actually travel with. This was made in Medjugorje, which I've never been there, but I did get it on an Etsy shop located there, handmade, and just for the durability of it, this is a great one. I just throw it in my purse, have it with me everywhere. In my ritual bag, I also have this one made of lava beads that I made myself. Just got beads in different sizes, got some string, used an ankh instead of a crucifix. And yeah, so this is part of that ritual bag. And then I also have smaller prayer beads. This is a decade rosary, just one decade of Hail Marys on it that I use for ancestor work, basically when I'm praying for them. I have another smaller rosary. I believe this has 12 Hail Marys on it. This is a Stella Marie one that I use when tapping into the water element because, again, I am a watery soul. I also have these 3 Hail Mary chaplets that live with my Mysteries of Mary and Mysteries of the Black Madonna decks. And beyond mala beads and rosaries, I also have these 10 bead meditation beads that I use for working with Maiden, Mother, and Crone energy. Man, again, I don't know why I felt compelled to dig all of those out, but here you go. I definitely have more rosaries too. There's usually one shoved in any piece of luggage that I have for safe travels. You never know. Why not cover your bases, right? But for the prayer beads prompt, we're to choose a deck that invites devotion and helps you connect to your higher power, whatever that means for you. My automatic thought was the Shimmering Veil Tarot. This, without question, for me, also blingy, is a soul deck. And I don't mean that in terms of, this is my deck, it was made for me, I'm bonded with it, it's my forever favorite. No, I mean, like, I really feel like I connect with my soul and the soul of Source through this deck. And that is what I use it for accordingly. I know that it can be excellent for mundane readings as well. I have seen it used that way. But I've got a lot of decks that I can use for that. So this is the one that I will go to purely for soulful readings in that way. If I want to get guidance from my higher self or that universal source, whatever you'd want to call it. Very ethereal, very powerful, something angelic about it. It's lovely. Definitely feels like the afterlife. Number 9, the statement ring or piece. I've got a couple cocktail rings that I would wear back in the day. They're kind of blingy, but what I would wear most often now is this turquoise ring, and this is vintage and I love it. I wear it on this finger, and yes, it's a very calming stone, but it also makes you feel powerful when you wear something with a statement like that, right? And I have a lot of crystal jewelry that I feel does make a statement. Quite a few necklaces, most of which are from Eden and after. But as an example, some really pretty combinations of crystals, interesting pendants like this, or with deer antlers. So I would consider any one of my crystal necklaces to be statement pieces, and this is just a small collection of them. I used to wear them a lot, and I don't do it as much, but they are great. Like, I definitely have them designated for what sorts of like energies or healing I'm looking for in the moment. And this one makes me laugh because I actually remember wearing this one when I was going to be getting together with a group of high school friends, and there was one in particular I actually wasn't excited to see, and I felt like this could be used as a weapon if need be, you know? Kidding, I would never do that, but you know, psychologically, it worked wonders. So for the statement ring or piece, choose a deck that makes you feel your boldest, one that commands attention and helps you show up with confidence. I felt like maybe I had a few contenders for this. Wasn't quite sure. Ultimately settled on Barbara Walker because this is a deck that if any is going to hand my ass to me, it's going to be this one. And I haven't worked with it a tremendous amount, but I have enough to know that it has a really bold, blunt voice to it. It's really not going to pull any punches. And that can be very humbling for me, but it also can be very empowering too. I did a reading just the other day and pulled a couple of cards that are almost scary, but they infused me with this sense of what a badass I could be if I wanted to be. Really gave me some confidence for boundary setting and not being so swayed like this. Prince of Swords. Oh, he's escaped. Sorry, the Prince of Swords, like it's so violent. It kind of scared me when I first saw it, but then like looking at it in the context of the reading, I was just like, yeah, this isn't what I want to do to people by any means, but like the mental space I need to be in sometimes, it just needs to be like, you know what? Sometimes I do have to prioritize myself and find my focus and not get tugged away. And so I have found it like really intuitive. It helps me go beyond the traditional tarot meanings because this deck just does have its own perspective anyway through a lot of mythological and legendary figures. It kind of goes its own way. And as you've probably noticed, there are keywords on these, but oh yeah, this was another one that I pulled. How awesome is that? So yeah, it did leave me feeling very confident about myself. I didn't feel like it was reading me for filth. I felt like it was actually like on my side and encouraging me to stand up taller and stronger. So I'm gonna go with that. Yeah, I think a lot of the images in here are very bold. They make a statement. They can humble you, but also make you feel tremendously confident. So the Barbara Walker as my statement ring. And number 10, the antique jewelry piece. I first thought of this one, which was actually a gift from an ex-boyfriend after I had broken up with him. Awkward. I don't know if he was trying to ingratiate himself with me and try to get back together, but yeah, no, that didn't happen. That was not going to happen. I did accept this though, and I wore it a lot. It's beautiful. I do not know what it dates back to, but this guy was originally from Poland. I think he had moved to the US after university, and this was from Poland. So I don't know if he regrets giving it to me or not, but I kept it. It's lovely. I also have this. I bought for myself. I forget where I found it, but oh my gosh, it felt like such a quest completed. I don't know if many people have seen the movie with David Niven called Enchantment. It is based on the book by Rumer Godden, who's my namesake. Take 3 Tenses was the name of the book, but the movie Enchantment I had seen first. And this necklace, or at least this style of necklace, appears in it, and I absolutely obsessed over it. And I actually was hoping to find something like it to wear when I got married, and I think it worked out for the best. Nothing would have been more meaningful than wearing my grandmother's pearls, as I mentioned before, so that all for sure worked out for the best. But several years later, I did find this, and I'm so happy to have it. Again, I don't know what it dates back to, but it's very special. And then I also thought of this ring that was made from, I think, the end of a spoon, some sort of utensil. It dates back to 1878. And my sister gave this to me as a gift. And you may be wondering why she gave me a ring with the letter C on it. Well, folks, I don't think I've made it a secret here that Rumer is just a pen name. I do have a real name that begins with C. For the antique jewelry piece, choose a deck that helps you reflect, one that carries depth, history, and wisdom. For this, I have gone with the Majestic Earth Tarot. Talk about reflection. You just gaze into these scenes. And this is it in a nutshell. It is like standing out in nature and taking stock, breathing in the fresh air, gaining perspective from the larger world around us. And if we're going to talk history and wisdom, where is that more profound than in nature? In these hills and mountains that have stood longer than we can comprehend. These powerful forces that are at work in the natural world that we can only just barely comprehend. It's so awe-inspiring. It's so beautiful. And that is the environment in which to reflect on life. And as I said, just gain some perspective, gain some humility through that awe, all that has come before us and will outlast us. When the earth is sick of us, it's going to shake us off. Take a break, try something else. There's just such majesty to it. Truly, truly is majestic. And even in images like this, where you see what mankind was able to build based on just divine inspiration and ingenuity, they were able to figure out how to make these things using the resources that the earth provides us. Then you get that sense of wisdom that does come through humanity as well, through the ages. So much from antiquity that still holds true for us now. So yes, this is a lovely deck for just offering that space to breathe and to reflect. So that is my antique jewelry piece, where decks go. And then Elizabeth added a bonus, if you want, a locket. I've had this one since I was a kid. I remember wearing it a lot. Did I ever have anything inside of it though? No. But as a kid, I just was obsessed with like secrets, and I loved little compartments where you could hide things away. I loved little areas where I could hide myself away. It's something just like so cozy and mysterious about it. And so I wanted a locket, and I asked for one and I got one, but I never knew what to do with it. Like I thought it would just come to me, you know, if I wanted to put pictures in there or little notes or I don't know, some hair. I don't whatever people do with lockets. I just never really found a use for it, but it didn't stop me from wearing it. And the one time I do remember putting something inside of it was actually in recent years. I was doing ancestral work, and I think that I put an intention inside, either as the actual folded piece of paper or the ash from that paper after I had burned it. I just did some sort of little ceremony honoring ancestors, well, specifically relatives that I knew. I was honoring grandparents, and two of them in particular, I feel like we're getting some special attention because they ran a chicken farm, and in preparation for this ritual, I had dried out and cooked eggshells to cleanse them, purify them before then using mortar and pestle to grind them up into pieces. And so I keep that in a jar, and I was incorporating some of the eggshells as well as like for protective energy, but also bearing in mind that that was an homage to my grandma and grandpa, who were chicken farmers. Interestingly enough, as I was doing that upstairs in my sacred space, my husband was outside working in the front yard. He was digging up some bulbs or tubers, and afterwards he comes inside and says, "It's the weirdest thing. I was digging up one of the planters and I found an egg." Like a perfectly intact egg. He's like, it was black and rotten inside, but he's like, but it was completely like a whole egg, a chicken egg. And I thought, what? After I had spent all this time preparing these eggshells for this ritual, specifically thinking of my grandma and grandpa. I think I even had like their business card for their farm selling the eggs. That's how they made their money. And while I am doing that, not just the same day, it was as I was doing all of this, my husband finds an egg in the planter. So of course, later, after a little research, I realized that it's probably a fox. Foxes like to bury their stuff all around, and it does happen with eggs. So that is the natural explanation for how that ended up there, but the synchronicity of it is just wonderful. So anyway, that's what I end up associating with this locket now, and so now it's extra special to me. But for the prompt, choose a deck that feels close to your heart, one that helps you explore your inner world with tenderness and truth. And also digging out of my ritual bag, I am going for my trimmed copy of the Raven's Prophecy Tarot. This particular copy is so near and dear to my heart, even though I have another one that still has its borders intact, but this was my first copy of it. I had really impactful experiences with it pretty out the gate. So this straight away became such a special deck to me. It was the very first one I ever trimmed, which shows because I did a real rough job of it, but I love that. I love that. It gives it this very uneven but great tactile quality. And so it just feels so good in the hand. It just feels like it's made for my hands. So it just has become so special. And like the imagery in it, it's this quiet walk through the woods, which is like that walk through the internal landscape. And I feel it does do it with tenderness. The ravens that appear in it are comforting to me. And images like this, where you're on that journey, maybe you feel you lose your way, and then you stumble on a tree that is offering that sense of shelter and guidance. It just is such an intuitive deck for me. I don't even necessarily have to think about which tarot card it's associated with to come up with some sort of feeling in meaning of my own. And yeah, just the darkness of it just really does feel like not shadowy to me, just more so like that darkness of my interior, and really offers that mirror to my inner self. And I love and adore it so much. Forever deck, for sure. And I've never selected a soul deck, but if I had to, I would say it's probably this one. So that will do it for this VR to Elizabeth's Bling Your Decks tag. Please check out her original video over at her channel, The More Intuitive Me. I will leave a link to that in the description. Such fun, really added sparkle to my day. So thank you, Elizabeth. And I look forward to seeing others' responses to this as well. Join on in, show us that bling. Whenever I am back, I hope to see you again. Thank you for joining me this time, and may all your days be merry and bright. Find the dazzle in it all. Bye-bye.